So a few months ago, I filmed a video in which I, a lesbian woman, read exclusively straight romance books. And let me tell you, it was a journey. It was a journey that we went on together. I'm glad you guys were there to offer me moral support throughout it. Let me tell you, 3 out of the 4 books I read were just pure trash. And not pure trash in the way of like, oh, it's like a trashy romance novel, like it's fun. No, just pure awful. Like if they are the kind of men that straight women look up to, I truly feel for you. The male protagonist, like the male romantic lead in Colleen Hoover's November 9, is genuinely just abusive. And yet if you go onto Goodreads, it is all like, oh, Ben's so wonderful, he's the perfect boyfriend, like I wish my husband was like him. No, you don't. No, you don't. Anyway, let's not get started on that again. We've all heard my November 9 rant many a time now. I recently went on holiday with my best friend and she was reading Icebreaker by Hannah Grace, and she was like, you are going to hate this book, you have to read it. And she wouldn't take no for an answer, so I was like, okay, fine, I'll read this book. And then I thought, well, if I'm reading this, I might as well like fully go in and read, like make a whole video on it, why not? And so welcome back for another episode of Lesbian Read Straight Romance Books. TikTok edition, I kind of guess. My sister's recently really got into books herself. She is very much on the straight side of book talk, which means she has read every single straight book talk book there is out there. And so she has very kindly lent me 3 more books to read for this episode. Let me tell you, I wasn't about to go out and spend my own money on these books. Wasn't going to do it. So we have, by popular demand, Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. So many of you told me I should read this book after November 9, and I don't think it was for good reasons. I swore I would... My cat's just climbing the radiator, ignore him. I swore I would never read another Coho book again because November 9 made me so angry. It still makes me angry. My sister had it, people keep telling me to read it, so I'm going to read that. We have It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. My sister said she thinks I might like this one, and I've heard very mixed reviews on it, so if there's any book out of these 4 that I'm predicting that I might like, maybe this one, so we'll give it a go. It's also like so chunky. How many pages is this? This is like 400 pages, so we'll see. And the last one is Book Lovers by Emily Henry. In my last video, I read You and Me on Vacation, which I didn't hate with a burning passion as much as I hated November 9. But the author, Emily Henry, kept referring to the 2 love interests as like seeing each other as siblings. And she's trying really hard to convince you that there's some sort of like romantic attraction between these 2 characters who just keep repeating that they see each other as siblings. Really weird. That put me off the entire book. So we'll see what I think of Book Lovers, because I felt like You and Me on Vacation had potential that it didn't quite reach. Let's give this one a go. This time I'm coming fully armed with my sticky tab, so you better believe that these books are about to be analysed into the high heavens. Let's see what a lesbian thinks about these straight romance books. I think I'm going to start with Icebreaker. Guys, I have a confession to make, and that confession is that I'm really, really enjoying Icebreaker. I am really liking this book. I know. I'm as shocked as you are. I really am. Like, this is the epitome of straight TikTok romance. I thought I would hate this. I don't. Like, all of the trappings that straight romance tends to fall into, I don't think Hannah Grace has fallen into any of them. The men in this book, and like, it's always the men that I've got a problem with a lot of the time. The men in this book are written by a woman. And I know most straight romance is written by women, but like the men they're written by a woman. Does that make sense? The men in this book are written for the female gaze. And the female gaze. Both types of gaze. Granted, I've not finished this book yet. I'm about 300 pages in. I've still got 100 or so pages to go, so Hannah Grace could still piss me off. But I've been making my little notes as I've been reading this book, and honestly, I haven't had that many notes to write. The premise of this book is you've got Anastasia, she is a figure skater, and she is like Ice Queen cold. She's a bitch. Like, I must admit, for like a big part of this book, she had no discernible personality. I think one of these notes, I think it's like 150 pages in, and I'm like, Anastasia still has no personality. Where is it? Oh, here. Page 72. Anastasia's personality, bitch and hot. Oh, because also Anastasia is really hot. Obviously, all the men are like obsessed with her. Anastasia is a pairs figure skater, so her partner is Aaron. I was very concerned when I started reading this book and like Aaron is the worst man ever, and I didn't know if that was like an intentional plot point. I just go into this like with very much like glass half empty and hope that they're going to surprise me. Turns out Aaron is just generally an awful person, so like don't let that put you off. And then as the book goes on, Anastasia basically has a thing with the captain of the ice hockey team. And like figure skating and ice hockey are meant to be like rivals, and so it's like a star-crossed lovers kind of situation. Only Anastasia, like I said, she's a bitch. She's an ice queen. She's like refusing to let Nate in, and that is basically where it goes. And eventually Aaron can't skate anymore, so Nate agrees to like stand in for Aaron on the rink. That is not a spoiler because that is literally what it says on the back. That is like the blurb of the book. But when Anastasia's skating partner faces an uncertain future, she may have to look to Nate to take her shot. So we know that Nate eventually is going to go on the ice. I must admit, that doesn't happen until like over halfway through the book. So I've like spent most of this book waiting for that to happen. Maybe don't put that in the blurb because I was waiting for it to happen and I was just like, come on, when's the plot going to start? What are my notes here? So I've written, chapter 2, page 12. I've put all my notes in upside down. Already fearing for my life because there is so much sex in this book. On the back here it says 18 plus content, not suitable for younger readers, and I can fully say this book isn't suitable for adult. They're like my eyes, my brain, scarred. I'm scarred by some of the things I've read in this book. Genuinely, it's upset me. As a queer woman, I'm upset at the sex scenes in this book. They're also slightly unrealistic, but aren't they always? Page 14, I've written, all the men are gods and all the girls are bitches/stupid. I stand by that. Like very early on in the book, all the men are being like talked up to be these like amazing gods. Like there's a character called Ryan who's like sculpted by the gods, and there's Nate who's like just the cutest, softest puppy to ever exist, and there's Aaron who's like this beautiful, amazing figure skater, and then all the girls are just like their only personality is bitch, pretty much. That does change slightly as you go through the book, but I didn't really like that. Page 16, there is a mention of pride. Proudly wearing their pansexual flag ally pins. There's been a few mentions of the queer community in this. I use pink tabs for gay, you see. What else we got? Oh, there's a gay character called Briar. There is, what's this one? Oh, one of the characters has lesbian mums. That character is Henry. Henry is just like the sweetest boy. Him and Nate are just like so cute. I love them so much. I wish if all men were like Nate and Henry in this book, we wouldn't have any problems. The world would be wonderful. What other notes have I got? Yeah, page 103, my note is, okay, I like Nate. I was fighting it. I was really determined to not like Nate. I do. He is just, you need to read this book to know what a precious little bean this man is. Like, Nate and Henry, they keep a box in their bathroom of, like, things for women in case women, like, stay over and need, like, deodorant or, like, hair ties or socks. There's, like, a thing in this, like, about how women never have socks, which I found funny. I don't know how true that is. Oh yeah, literally here. It was fun staying in Henry's room. There's a box of essentials like shampoo, wipes, hair ties and tampons in the bathroom. I asked if an ex had left them. He said he bought them for if a woman ever stayed over. He wanted to ensure she had everything she might need, especially because women never have their own socks. Like, what the hell? That's so cute. Like, Anastasia and Henry have this, like, really cute platonic relationship. Page 151, I've said, finally a personality for Anastasia. So it took a while. That is probably my biggest criticism of this book. Like, Anastasia has no discernible personality apart from Ice Queen. And I understand what they were trying to do, like what Hannah Grace was trying to do, but I don't know. It just, like, give your main character, like, something, you know? A new filming background has been unlocked since I last filmed a segment of this video, so I hope you like it. This is now the spare room, or was the spare room. It's now my office. This is probably only going to be temporary. I'm still, like, figuring out where I want stuff, but it's cute, isn't it? Look at this, it's adorable. Anyway, I have some thoughts about books, and we're going to start with Icebreaker, which I finished quite a few weeks ago now. I've been slacking, I should have filmed this a while ago. If there is one thing this book proves, it's that I am not inherently a hater. I actually had an argument with somebody on Instagram because they don't think I should be doing like negative book reviews. I don't really understand that like train of thought on BookTube and on Book Talk, like where you can't talk negatively about books. If I don't like a book, you guys, you're gonna know about it. Like, it's not inherently a slate against the author. It doesn't mean everything the author has ever written is awful. It doesn't diminish them in any way. But if I don't like a book, I'm not gonna bullshit. Like, I'm gonna tell you. But this book, I actually really liked it. Like, is this a bit surface level? Yeah. Like, is it all a bit, like, just silly? Does it really matter? Not really. Is it literature that's going to change the world? Not at all. Is it silly and funny and cute and quite enjoyable? Yes. I can't really remember which bit I'd read up to when I filmed the last clip for this video, so we're just going to read some of my little tabs that I've got. What's this? Okay. Oh, there's lots of like queer representation in this book. Like, yes, it's a straight book. Like, the main romance is straight. But like, Henry's mums are gay and like it's just thrown in there. It's like not a big point. It's just like, oh yeah, Henry's mums. Like, that's lovely. I like that. I like that when I'm reading a straight book and I'm like, oh, there are gays in this world. There's like a few references to Pride. One of the characters, oh, what's his name? Oh my god, what is his name? That is really bad of me, I can't remember. But one of the characters is like pansexual, I think, which is really cool. I really like a little bit of representation. Okay, so the main characters in this book are Anastasia and Nate. Anastasia is an ice skater, Nate is a hockey player, like an ice hockey player, and it's like a enemies to lovers kind of romance. For the most part of this book, all the boys are just so lovely. Like, apart from one of the main male characters who's like meant to be the villain. Like, I do not mind if a man is a misogynistic prick in a book as long as they are meant to be the villain. It's when like romantic leads are written as like misogynistic and abusive and then like you're meant to think that's romantic. That's what I have a problem with. That is not something this book fell into at all. All of the main guys in this are so sweet. So Nate is just like generally very unjealous and very self-aware and like always actively like trying to be a feminist, which I really like. There is one bit I've marked here which reads, I'm not sure I could punch every single guy who looks in her direction, although I'd give it a good go. And I marked that off because I was like, oh, Nate, mate, like that's not the Nate I know and love. It's certainly not. But then like later in the book he sort of like references that and he's like, oh, I'm really trying not to be a jealous guy, which like I like self-awareness. Something that Anastasia does fall into is sort of trying to apologise for all the men in her life, and she's always trying to like make excuses for them, particularly for Aaron, who is the aforementioned like male villain in this story, the antagonist, I suppose I should say. So Anastasia is like constantly trying to like change herself to make him better. Again, that's just part of the storyline. Like, it's not meant to be like a romantic thing, it's just like part of the plot of this book, which as I said is fine. I love this sentence. I'm slowly making my peace with the fact that my friendship with Aaron has taken all the strain it can handle. I can no longer be a doormat for a broken man to dump his emotional baggage on when he refuses to even attempt to help himself. I love that. I love self-awareness. Oh my god, yeah. So for like the last 100 pages of the book, like Anastasia and Nate are like pretty happy together. Obviously, I hope none of this is spoilers. Like, it's a romance book. What do you think is going to happen? So they're like, trying to find the right time to tell each other they love each other, and they're so like, I don't know when, like how, like is it too soon to say you love someone? Like, and as a lesbian, that's just like really funny to me because lesbian relationships move like, I think me and my girlfriend, I think we would have said, me and my fiance, oh my god, it's still weird to me. I think me and my fiance would have said we love each other to each other a lot sooner than we did if we weren't separated by lockdowns for like the first 3 months of our relationship. So I think in the end it took us like 2 months, which I thought was slow. I could have said it a lot sooner, so that was just like really funny to me. And then what's this? Oh, and she finally says it. You know what, I'm not gonna tell you the situation in which she finally tells him she loves him, but it's just so dramatic. Of course it is. Like, it's just say it. Just tell someone you love them when you love them. Like, if they say no, then move on. Life is too short to not tell people you love them. Life is also too short for shit books. This one was not a shit book. And my only really big criticism of this book is that it could have been a lot shorter. Like, by the time I hit like page 300, I was like, okay, this story feels like it could have wrapped up by now. Like, we've got our ending, like everyone's happy, like it could have just ended and it just kept going. I think this book is like 400 and something pages long. like 430 pages long, I think. Like, that's just obscene. It could have been about 300 pages long, honestly. I like really binged those first 300 pages. Like, I loved it. I was really into it. And the last 100 pages, I was like, bored. And the last 100 pages took me like a week to read because I was just like not really feeling it anymore. There's a lot of smut in this book. Like, this book is smut central, which is why I think most people are picking it up. It's very intense. There's a lot going on. I can't say I particularly enjoyed it, but in terms of like a lot of straight sex scenes I have read in doing this series, these are fine. Like, it's fine. There's nothing misogynistic. There's nothing abusive. There's nothing coercive or controlling. It's so fine. And something else I loved about this book, there is no miscommunication trope. This is a man and a woman who can talk to each other. When they have an issue, they communicate it. And it's just a breath of fresh air. I gave this book 4 stars, maybe 3.5, but I think 4 stars I'm feeling generous. I really liked it. Sadly, the same cannot be said for Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. If Colleen Hoover has one hater, that hater is me. Me and her, we have beef. She doesn't know about the beef. I know about the beef, and I feel it strongly. I really, really enjoyed Verity by Colleen Hoover. Then I read It Ends With Us, and I was like, okay, yeah, like, Ends With Us is, like, fine. I think if I reread it now with, like, more education, more knowledge on the stuff I'm going to talk about, I probably would have liked it a lot less. But for what it was at the time, I thought it was fine. Then I read November 9. That was just a misogynistic piece of trash. This one falls into the same category. This book is genuinely terrible. And as I said in my November 9 review all those months ago, I really, really have an issue with romance books that put forward these controlling, abusive, coercive men and make them out to be romantic leads. Like, you read the Goodreads reviews on this book, on November 9, on so many other of Colleen Hoover's books, and you've literally got straight women frothing at the mouth for these men. And it genuinely concerns me because they are awful. Like, the worst type of men. It's so damaging. It is so damaging that this is what so many people think is the idea of romance. Like, this is what people think romance should be. It's not. So our main characters in Ugly Love are Tate and Miles. Tate is very much one of those girls who's like got an I can fix him complex. Like, she just wants to fix him, and it's like put forward this like heroic thing that she's doing. She's trying to like fix this man because she knows there's good in there somewhere. And then on the other hand, you have Miles, who is this emotionally unavailable guy who just needs to go to therapy. Like, this book should have been 3 pages long. It should have been Tate meeting Miles and saying, oh, here's the number for a therapist. Like, call me when you're sorted because I'm not getting involved in any of this stuff. But no, of course not, because it's this long. She gets involved in all the stuff. And Miles, it turns out, went through some shit as a teenager when he was like 18 years old. And that made him completely shut his heart off for love. So Miles and Tate have this apparently undeniable chemistry. I didn't feel it at any point, but we were told it was there, so I assume it was. They have this chemistry, and Miles is like, I just want to have no strings attached sex. Like, I can't feel love for anyone. I can't feel feelings for anyone. I don't have emotions. Let's just have sex. And Tate is like, yeah, I can fix you. Let's do this. Seriously. The first chapter of this book is a doozy. Let me tell you, I literally had to pick my jaw up off the floor and put it back on my face because I could not believe what I was reading. So the first chapter opens, Tate is moving into her brother's apartment. She's moved to the same city as her brother. They're living together temporarily for a few months. And she goes up to her brother's apartment and finds a drunk man sat in front of the door. So she is like, shit, what do I do? There's a drunk guy. Like, I need to get around him to get into the apartment. I'm a bit scared. So Tate gets in. She calls her brother to be like, there's a drunk guy sat outside your front door, like my suitcase is still out there, like I don't really know what to do. So her brother's like, hey, I'm just going to call my neighbour and get my neighbour to help and he can come and remove the drunk guy. Turns out the drunk guy is the neighbour. The drunk guy is Miles. So then Corbin says to Tate, like, yeah, listen, like, you need to let this drunk guy, Miles, into the apartment so he can sleep on the couch and, like, sleep his drunkenness off. And, like, that's fine by you, like, right? Like, you're my younger female attractive sister. Like, let a strange man come in and sleep on the sofa. That's a good idea. And like, if that continued to be Corbyn's personality, his character throughout the book, I'd be like, okay, yeah, like maybe he just makes stupid decisions, doesn't really think things through. No, because when Miles and Tate like begin their thing and Corbyn finds out, he is like the most insanely overprotective, like weirdly jealous brother. Like, it's so weird. And like, you made her let him in when he was drunk on the first night she was in the apartment when you weren't even there. And he slept on the like sofa while she slept in her bedroom, and you just thought that was okay. But a consensual relationship, that's not okay. Like, what? Literally on my tab here, I've written, I don't know if you can see, what in capital letters. I was shocked. Here I've written controlling brother, so that is on page 13. Corbyn is already being like weirdly controlling. Yeah, Tate had a relationship when she was a teenager and her brother like scared him off. Why are men having any sort of like input into their female relationships? Don't really know. So the next morning, Miles wakes up, has no memory of what happened, and so sort of comes up to Tate and he's like, what happened? His discomfort with his lapse in memory makes me laugh. I like that he has no idea what happened last night. I even kind of like the thought of being with me seems to unnerve him. I might keep this facade going for a while for my own sick enjoyment. So she's letting this guy think that they might have like done stuff, or like he might have hurt her in some way. And then we come on to like just the most unhinged thing that I've ever read in a book, to be honest with you. Like, genuinely unhinged. So it turns out the reason that Miles is so emotionally unavailable is because he had a relationship when he was 18 with a girl called Rachel, and things happened. Should I spoil it? No, I won't spoil it. If you want to put yourself through this, and you can, but bad things happened in their relationship essentially. So he meets this girl at school, and like immediately he's like, I'm gonna fall in love with you. These chapters with Miles and Rachel are kind of like written in verse, not in verse. They're definitely not in verse. Like, I kind of feel like that's what Colleen Hoover was trying to go for. Like, let me just read it out to you. I instantly become aware of my legs and their inability to stand. My mouth forgets how to speak. My arms forget how to reach out to introduce the person they're attached to. My heart forgets to wait and get to know a girl before it starts to claw its way out of my chest to get her. Rachel, 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 Rachel. She's like poetry, like prose and love letters and lyrics cascading down the centre of a page. So artistic. Rachel, Rachel, Rachel. I say her name over and over in my head because I'm positive it's the name of the girl I'll fall in love with. I'm gonna fall in love with you, Rachel. You're gonna fall in love with me, Rachel. Rachel, Rachel, Rachel. It's so unhinged. Anyway, so they meet at school and they're like, he immediately falls in love with her and like becomes like weirdly obsessed with her. Anyway, next time you have one of those chapters, like these chapters, like flashback ones are kind of like sprinkled through the book. It turns out that their parents have been dating for like a year. And so they're step siblings, like their parents are getting married and they move in together, and Miles and Rachel are still doing the deed. They start to have sex and they have a full-on relationship whilst their parents are together, and their parents refer to them as siblings, brother and sister, stepbrother, stepsister, and they are doing it. And it's just like, why? Like, there was no narrative need in this book to make them stepbrother and stepsister. Like, this entire book could have been exactly the same if they weren't stepbrother and stepsister. Like, all it adds is like a little bit of angst with like Miles and his dad, for obvious reasons. So why? Why the almost incest? Why? Why the almost incest? That's a question that I don't know the answer to, and I would love to know the answer to because it feels unnecessary. Like, it literally, I cannot stress enough how it could have been exactly the same without it. There was no need. Moving on to page 42, we are now back in the present day with Miles and Tate. Corbyn has all his friends round, including Miles, for like to watch a game, I assume a football game, don't really know. Tate's in the apartment like trying to work, and the boys are just being like assholes basically. And then basically in the end it turns around and Tate's like, I'm being the bitch. I'm being unreasonable. I'm being a bitch. Like, the men making so much noise I can't concentrate, that's not their fault. Like, I asked them to quiet down, but they didn't. But I'm being the bitch. That is literally what this says. I expel a quick, relinquishing breath. I'm being the bitch. This isn't even my apartment. This is their thing that they obviously do on a regular basis, and who am I to think I can just move in and put a stop to it? She just asked them to be quiet, not being funny. A couple of pages later, Miles is like, Tate, go across to my apartment to study. And Tate's like, no, you know what, it's fine. Like, I'm fine studying here. The TV isn't even that loud, like, whatever. He takes a step forward until he's close enough to whisper, I'm pretty sure I'm leaving finger indentations on the bread, considering every single part of me, right down to my toes, just tensed. I'm not fine with you staying here. Not until he leaves. Go, take your sandwiches with you. So she just goes. He tells her to go. She just goes. Another big problem I had with this book is none of the female characters, and by none of them I mean two, Tate and Rachel, seem to have any sort of like ambition, or at least like their job's not as important as the man's job. So like Corbin and Miles are both pilots, and Tate is a nurse. She's like studying for like nursing stuff, so I suppose like she does have a job, but like a whole big thing is like Tate is really amazed, like their dad was a pilot, now her older brother's a pilot, like following in like family footsteps. Why could Tate not be a pilot? Was my main question. And then we have one of the flashbacks with Rachel, and Rachel and Miles like talking about their ambitions for the future, and Miles talking about how he's going to go to flight school and like get his bachelor's and he's going to be a pilot, and he asks her, what do you want to be? And Rachel just replies, happy. He says, that's the perfect answer. It's okay, she's just a girl, she just wants to be happy, she needs no ambition, just happiness. Eventually, Tate and Miles kiss, or like Miles kisses Tate. There's no consent really there, he just kisses her. And then afterwards, he says to her, don't let me do that again. Like it's up to her. Like, maybe you don't kiss her again. Why does she have to not let you do that again? Just don't kiss her again. If you don't want to, don't do it. Maybe. Very soon after that point, they just start shagging, this like no emotions, no strings attached kind of thing that Tate is obviously not there for at all, when she makes it very obvious to him that she's not really feeling that, but he wants that, so that's what they're going to do. He has a whole thing about her biting her lip. She's not allowed to bite her lip when she's around him. Like every time she does it, he's like, you're prettier when you don't do that. It's like, you're prettier when you smile. Like, shut up. One of their first sex scenes. Is this one of their first? I don't really know. I don't really care to find out. He pushes harder and deeper until there isn't any way we could possibly get closer. It does hurt, but in the best possible way. It shouldn't be hurting, my love. Shouldn't be hurting. But you know what, Colleen Hoover? Let's just like tell all the young girls reading this book that that's fine. Let's just tell them that's like totally what sex is supposed to be like. That's so good. Another gripe, this entire thing is just gripes. Tate very much is written as having a complex about like not being like other girls. Like Tate's not like the other girls. She's so quirky, she's so cool, like all the men want her. If there's one thing I don't do well as a girl, it's shop. I'm actually relieved it only took him a minute. That's just one example of many. Like, just, Colleen Hoover hates women. Like, that's the only way I can describe it. Like, her books make it seem like she hates women and loves emotionally controlling, coercive men. Oh, a perfect example here with this tab. He's doing that intimidating thing again that naturally makes me back away from him. Why is that romantic? Why are you so intimidated by a man that you want to get away from him but you can't because you're trapped? That's not a love story. That is intimidation. You're scared. You are trying to get away. But no, apparently according to Colleen Hoover, that's romance. Like, Miles in this book is just the worst. And you know what, like, the cherry on top of the cake is? Like, the worst thing. It is abundantly clear throughout this entire book that Miles doesn't care for Tate anywhere near as much as he cared for Rachel. Like, at all. Like, their love doesn't even compare. Like, the way he talks about Rachel in the flashbacks compared to the way he talks about Tate. Like, there's not even a comparison there. At all. Like, he doesn't like her. Colleen Hoover just loves a young, unsure girl who is in love with this possessive, controlling, dominant man. That is all of her books. So you don't need to read any of them. That is it. That, in a nutshell, that sentence is it. Like, if you told me that these books are written by a horny teenager, I would believe you, because these books read like a teenager's idea of what love is supposed to be. Somebody who's never actually experienced a true relationship, true love, being treated well. That is what these books read like. Colleen Hoover, she's not a hormonal teenager. I don't really know what's going on there. Please, guys, remember, you can have lust, but you can also have a fulfilling relationship. Like, you can also have kindness along with lust. Lust does not need to mean being treated poorly. remember that. Anyway, I finished this book like 2 weeks ago now, and I have not picked up the next book for this video because honestly, I am scared, but I'm going to begin tonight. I think I'm going to do It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey. So I will be back very shortly to let you know what I think of that one. It surely can't be worse. Okay, we are back with my final installment of today's Lesbian Reads Straight Romance video, and I have finished, officially, It Happened One Summer by Tessa Bailey and Book Lovers by Emily Henry. I'm not going to lie to you, the reviews of these aren't going to be as interesting as the reviews of Ugly Love and Icebreaker, purely because I don't have loads to say about these, and they're just fine. They are just fine. So when I finished reading It Happened One Summer, I gave it a 4-star review on Goodreads. I actually, in my head, I was like, it's a 3.5 star. I'm going to round it up because I'm feeling generous, but like, this is a very solid 3.5 star review. I started it and I was like, oh my god, the main character of Piper is so insufferable. I have no idea how I'm going to be able to read this book because she is just like the worst. She is a socialite, very rich LA girly. She has no concept of money or what like the value of money is. She just lives off her stepdaddy's money, and that is basically all she does. That is who she is. And then one day her family have had enough of her and they send her to go back to Westport, which is the town where her and her sister were born to a fisherman, and then her fisherman dad ended up dying out at sea. They moved to LA, they met the rich stepdad, and here she is today. When Piper arrives in Westport with her younger sister Libby, she very quickly meets this fisherman dude called Brandon, what's his name? Wait a sec. Brendan Taggart. And Brendan immediately has this like preconceived idea of who Piper is, and he immediately hates her. So I'm like, oh, it's going to be like an enemies to lovers kind of situation. It's not really. Like, he gets over his hatred of her very quickly because he like fancies the pants of her. So it's more of like a grumpy sunshine trope than anything else. As I was reading this, I kept commenting to Holly, my fiance, how much Piper and Brendan reminded me of Alexis and Mark from Schitt's Creek. Like, it was so uncanny, and anyone who knows me will know how much I love Schitt's Creek. It's one of my favourite TV shows ever. If you haven't watched it, then you are missing out. Please, please, please go and watch it. But then I eventually actually read the blurb on the back, and the literal first line of the blurb is, Tessa Bailey is back with a Schitt's Creek inspired rom-com. This is literally inspired by Schitt's Creek, and it is so obvious. I don't know whether that's a good thing. Like, is that just like pure plagiarism, or was the inspiration so good that it just like really jumped off the page to me as a reader? But what I will say is I actually did quite enjoy this book. Like, I finished it and I felt like quite light and happy and cheery, and I was like, oh, that's a really cute book. Don't get me wrong, it had its issues, which I will get into, but I enjoyed it. For like surface level enjoyment, it was good. This is so cheesy, and that is not meant as like a slight against the book. Like, I do think cheese is good when it leans into the cheese. When a romance book isn't supposed to be cheesy, and it is, that's when it's bad. But when it's cheesy and it knows it, that is what this is, and I really enjoy it. That is also really similar to The Love Hypothesis. Like, The Love Hypothesis is so cheesy, and it knows it, and it's fine. Like, this leans into all of the tropes in a good way. Like I said, the main trope here is the grumpy sunshine. Like, Brendan is this really grumpy fisherman who hates these like Hollywood it girls coming into his small town and ruining everything. But then he like undeniably falls for Piper so quickly. I was hoping for a bit more of like a slow burn, like a bit more of maybe like an enemies to lovers situation, but it's not, and that's fine. That's not what this book is. Brendan like falls for Piper, and he falls hard. And you know what? I do really enjoy it when like the male hero falls before the woman does, because that doesn't happen all that often. But, like, he is like this puppy dog for Piper. Like, he is obsessed with her and just wants to like make her happy, which is so cute. I love when a book has like real true character growth. Like, the Piper at the end of this book is unrecognisable from the Piper that you read in the first chapter, who I was like, she is so insufferable, I'm going to hate this. And Brendan also has really good character growth as well. Like I said, on a real surface level, this book is really cute. I did enjoy it. Like, I just thought Piper and Brendan worked so well together. Their love was really, really pure. I liked the banter between them for the most part. Some of the banter was questionable at points, like a bit like nobody would ever say that in real life, but for the most part I did really like the banter. There is this like running thing throughout the book where Piper calls Brendan her like recharging station, and recharging station is like a word for a hug. Like, she's like, oh, I really need my recharging station, but like, she just wants a hug from him. Like, that wasn't needed. That was just too cheesy. Like, just say you want a hug. It was weird, but it is one of those like couple things. Like, you know how couples have their own languages a lot of the time? I'm sure there's a lot of things that me and my partner do, which is so cringy, which I will never ever talk about publicly ever. So maybe it's one of those things, but like reading it through like the eyes of somebody else, no, thank you, no. Which leads me on to some, I suppose, criticisms of this book. And my first criticism is this really cute little cover with this like party girl and the fisherman. Is it going to focus? There you go. Like, this cover does not depict the absolute depraved filth inside. This book, I don't even want to call them sex scenes, because it's there are no words for the sex scenes in this book. Like, it is unbelievable, some of the things that happen in this book. Like, it's not even like kinky, it's not even bad, it's just so cringy. And I don't know if that's just me speaking as like a lesbian, like not quite understanding it, but it was just pure filth. Like, I swear to you, I was going to read out some chapters, but I actually think it would get this demonetized, and I cannot afford for this channel to be demonetized. But it was, are all Tessa Bailey books like this? I do not know. I don't want to find out. Like, it was a bit much for me. Like, I will read the smuttiest, filthiest lesbian books, but this, it was confirmation for me that I am a true gay, because they did nothing for me except make me like a little bit sick. Like, I had a bit of a lump in my throat at some points. But like, also, if I ever have to read a vagina referred to as her femininity ever again, I think I might actually scream. Her femininity. I touched her femininity. Like, no, just use not even anatomical language, but anything is better than her femininity. It might actually be on like a level with like her hot core. When a book calls a vagina a hot core, no, it makes me want to throw a book out of a window. Her femininity, just no, I don't know why, it just like physically repulses me. Stop it. Also, like, so much of this book is so gendered, and again, this might be me coming at it from a very, very queer sort of like angle, but he is like this big burly fisherman. He is big and strong, and he is man, and she is like dainty tiny little party girl. She just needs to be protected, and like her vagina's her femininity, and like it was so gendered. And honestly, I don't generally have a problem with that. Like, you know what you're going into reading books like this. Like, this isn't a book about like non-binary characters. Like, it's fine, but it was so unbelievably gendered that I just had to make a note of it. Just like, stop reminding me that he is a big strong man. It does nothing for me. I don't care. Also, the fact that Brendan is a fisherman who is like out at sea all the time, like he is always on the sea with fish, like working hard and sweating, and he's all salty and fishy, and then he comes home and he is immediately engaging in filthy sex with Piper. I'm like, does he not smell? Like, this book doesn't mention showers anywhere near as much as I would have liked it to. Like, is that something women find attractive? This is like genuinely asking, like, men being like smelly and sweaty and gross. Is that attractive? Because I don't get it. Like, he must stink so much. That is just something that I couldn't get out of my head throughout this book. I did mark some pages with my little sticky notes, but I must admit that I found the sticky notes really hard to keep up with. People who annotate all their books, like, honestly, I don't understand it, because when I'm in a book, I'm in a book. Like, I am not surfacing for anything. I'm not reading a book thinking like, oh, let me just get a sticky tab out and like write on that bit and like annotate. Like, I just don't, I'm in it, I'm reading it, and I'm not coming up for air. But let me see what I did mark. Oh, the stepdad in like one of the very first chapters, he's like, I don't like to think about the fact that your mother loved somebody before she loved me. And like, he is referring to their father, and he's like, yeah, I just don't like to think about it. And it's like, come on, like, everyone has a past, everyone has a life. Like, me and my partner talk about our exes or ex things all the time, because it's just like, it doesn't matter. So I find that weird. What else we got? Here we have, as soon as Brendan noticed the way the rain was moulding the dress to Floppy Hat's tits, he glanced away quickly, going back to what he'd been doing before. So he meets Piper, and immediately the first thing he noticed is her boobs, which, don't know if that's relatable. Oh, Biscuit! Hi, Biscuit! You come to say hi! Not gonna lie to you, I have no idea why I've marked off most of these things. And in that moment, Brendan saw right through her, saw what she was doing, making tonight about sex, trying to keep things casual. Oh yeah, so Piper was like, because she thought she was going back to LA, she was like really determined not to have any sort of like actual relationship with anyone in Westport, and so she like just wanted to have sex. I don't really know what I marked off, to be fair. I really don't. I stopped making notes. I was just like marking things. Oh my god, okay, this last note, that one was for a reason. Biscuit, do you want to get down? You're really annoying. He's so annoying. He's so annoying. So this book falls victim to one of my least favourite, is it even a trope? One of my least favourite literary devices, I should suppose, in any romance book, straight or gay. Hate it in everyone, which is the third act breakup. I hate it because you always know it's coming and you always know they're going to get back together, and it's just boring. But the third act breakup in this book is so rogue the way it happens, because there's just like no communication whatsoever. And the argument they have is so out of the blue. It literally comes out of nowhere. You can tell Tess Bailey has just put it in just for the sake of having this third act breakup. And there's no lead up to it. They just suddenly have this massive argument for no reason whatsoever. They suddenly forget how to communicate entirely. And then obviously they end up getting back together. And it is so stupid. I hate when authors do it. So I'm getting really distracted by my absolute devil of a cat. Biscuit, come here. When we brought our tiny son home, the lady said to us, "You've got to be careful with him because he causes a bit of mischief." And we were like, oh no, like he's so cute. He's going to be absolutely fine. No mischief over here. No, he's a terror. Crime rate in our house has gone up by like 400%. Nothing is safe. He will eat anything. He will bite anything. He will attack anything. You are a nightmare. And then he's so cute. He's so unbelievably cute. At the same time as just being an absolute criminal. So yeah, it happened one summer, it was cute, I finished it and I was like, you know what, that was quite adorable, I'm going to give it 3.5 stars. It had its glaringly obvious issues, but it wasn't like a feminist nightmare. Like, this wasn't offensive to women everywhere, which I hate to say is kind of the bar. Like, if you're not like blatantly offensive, then you're fine. This isn't blatantly offensive. It's got its problems in that it is like aggressively gendered, but it's straight romance, what more can you expect? Take it at face value. It's fine, I didn't hate it. And then we come on to our final book of the video, Book Lovers by Emily Henry. When I tell you I finished this book like 2 days ago, can I remember anything that happened in it? No. Was it offensive? No. Did I care about it at all in the slightest? No. I gave it 2.5 stars. So this is a book about the book world. It's quite meta. Emily Henry really leans into like all of the tropes that writers fall into, and she references all these different tropes really often. Our main character here is Nora. She is a literary agent, so she is basically in charge of like helping out authors, finding authors, connecting them with people. I don't really know what her job was. She's an agent, and our male main character, male protagonist, male love interest, I should say, is Charlie. Charlie is a man with no discernible personality whatsoever. I literally could not tell you a thing about this man, apart from when you first meet him, he's a bit cold, but like that's fine because Nora is an ice queen. The amount of times she's referred to in this book as an ice queen, having no emotions, like, it's just so overdone. Like, writing a woman who's an ice queen kind of at this point just feels like a bit of cop-out because you don't actually want to give her any personality. But it's fine because Charlie doesn't have a personality either, so they kind of match. This book opens in New York City, and I love New York so much. Any book that's set in New York, like, I'm all over it instantly. Like, the location of a book is always like the third character. Like, it's such an important part of a book and a part of a story. So as soon as any book is set in New York, like, I automatically am a bit more biased towards it. So I opened, it was in New York. I was like, oh, amazing, that's so good. No, because this is a small town romance, of course. So Nora has a younger sister called Libby. They had quite a traumatic upbringing. They lost their mum when I think Nora was like 20, Libby was like 15. So Nora kind of had to become Libby's mum and raise her, and that is something that has continued throughout their adult lives. Libby is now a mother herself. She's got a husband, she's got 2 kids, she's got a 3rd on the way, and Nora like still babies her so much, which was so frustrating to read, because throughout all of this book I was just screaming like, Libby is an adult, like she can make her own decisions. It was so annoying. So Libby decides that she wants her and her sister to go on this month-long holiday to this place called Sunshine Falls. It's like this tiny little town in the middle of nowhere. And Libby decides that Nora is working too much. Nora can't like seem to commit to any man. Nora must be really, really unhappy. So instead of like just sitting down her sister and being like, are you okay? Like, is there anything you need from me? Like, are you happy with your life? Libby's like, no, I'm just going to like book this holiday and I'm going to take her and I'm going to present her with this like to-do list of everything that I want her to do in this town. It's like cliche things, like romance book cliches, like meet a man and go on a date and like help a small business and ride a horse, like all these really cliche small town romance things. So they just basically go on this holiday and Libby spends the entire time like harassing Nora to do all these things on this list. Whereas Nora knows that there's something up with Libby, but again, doesn't sit her down and ask like, what's going on with you? Like, are you okay? She just like starts trying to fix it without ever actually asking the question. It is so frustrating. But that's kind of like the side story. The main story is that when Nora arrives in Sunshine Falls, she runs into her like work rival Charlie, who she's had this like really bad meeting with in the past. She runs into him in this small town in the middle of nowhere and they start dating, kind of. They start talking all the time, seeing each other. They like email back and forth. There is zero chemistry between these 2 characters. Like when I tell you I could not have cared less whether or not they got together, like genuinely did not give a shit. I kind of thought going into this, when you're presented with this to-do list that Libby wants Nora to do all these things in Sunshine Falls, I thought it might be like the Falling in Love montage by Kira Smith, which is basically a rom-com book in which these 2 characters meet and there's like quite legitimate reasons as to why they can't be together. One of them lives in England, the other lives in Ireland. They like aren't in a position to be in a relationship, but they really like each other. So what they decide to do is they make a list of all like the rom-com tropes and they work through all these tropes. Like each chapter is them doing like a different trope until obviously they really fall in love at the end of it. When I was presented with the to-do list in this, I was like, oh my god, it's going to be like the Falling in Love montage, which I absolutely loved, and each chapter is going to be them like doing a different thing on this list. When I tell you this list is referenced all the time, but it's like it doesn't really matter. I was like quite frustrated by that. Maybe that is just because I had like unrealistic expectations. I don't really know, but that was annoying. Like this list is referenced all the time, but you don't actually see them do everything on this list, which really like just it didn't itch that itch in my brain like I wanted it to. What more is there to say? I did write notes. I just thought this was so boring. That's basically everything. Again, this book isn't like blatantly offensive towards women at any point, so like I'll give it credit where credit's due. Like it's not an offensive romance book in the way that some are, Colleen Hoover, but it's just boring. Like on a base level, it's just a surface level book. It doesn't ever like dive into the really deep stuff. Like even at the end when like Libby and Nora like finally sit down and figure out what's going on with each other, it's still so surface level. Like there is no like big deep conversation. It is just really frustrating. I think if this book was more about the sort of like sibling relationship rather than having any romance at all, I probably would have enjoyed it more because I would have had that like more time to really dive into that sisterly relationship. Having 2 sisters myself, like that's something I enjoy reading about, but it's just all surface level, no substance. I did not care for it at all. I've also read You, Me on Vacation by Emily Henry as well, and again it was very similar, like not really much substance to it. So they are my reviews of all 4 books. Icebreaker, Ugly Love, It Happened One Summer, and Book Lovers. If I had to rank them 1 to 4, I think my favourite one was, shockingly, Icebreaker. I just really enjoyed it, okay? I really liked it. The men in this book were just lovely. I liked the men more than I liked the female characters, which is saying something, because it takes a lot for me to like a man more than I like any woman. Lesbian. Then probably It Happened One Summer. Cute, like I said. Then Book Lovers. And then at the bottom of the list we have, shockingly, Ugly Love by Colleen Hoover. Just, no. I must admit this one wasn't as painful as the last video I filmed in this, I suppose, mini-series. I actually can't remember what books I spoke about in the last one. It was November 9, You and Me on Vacation. What else was it? Oh, The Love Hypothesis and The Spanish Love Deception. So if you want to hear my thoughts on those 4 books, I'll leave a link to the first one in the description box down below. If you want me to film another one of these videos, then please let me know. I feel like I've read all of like the big straight romance, like the TikTok romance books by this point, but we'll see. My sister actually wants to film a video with me because she loves, like I said at the beginning of this video, all like the really straight TikTok romances. So she wants to film a video where we like switch books for a week. So maybe we'll do that. If there's any other books you want to see me read, please let me know down below. I'm going to go read a very gay book now to cleanse the palate, I think. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.